Welcome back to Eagle Time. Thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate it. Today on this week's episode, we got Mr. Marcus West back on. Thank you for coming back on.
Hey, thank you for having me as promised.
Of course. Hey, man. Everybody wanted you back on, so we had to bring you back on.
Great to hear. Great to hear.
All right. So if you guys haven't seen the last episode, please go see that. It'll help you with this episode. So as we were talking about last episode, you're talking about your small fry championships and all the stuff you did with them. So if you want to go ahead and start on that.
Yeah. So just recapping on the last conversation that we had. So we talked about that 1987 small fry basketball team, and it wasn't enough time to really go into it. So that's why we're having this episode here today. So in 1987, our Racine small fry team ended up winning the national tournament in Newark, New Jersey in 87. Right after that, we were invited to the International World Games, or whatever it was titled at that time, to go represent United States in the tournament over in Sochi, Russia. Mm-hmm. So it was a huge invite, right?
Yeah.
So obviously there were conversations that had to be had before agreeing to such a thing, because at that time it was during the Cold War. United States and Russia really were not on good terms. So there was a lot of things that had to be handled in the background prior to accepting this visit. So once that optics was completed, we had the authorization to go ahead. So we went ahead and start raising the monies necessary to make this dream come into fruition. So we were doing free throw contests. We were doing door to door. We were asking families and friends for money. And I have to say the community of Racine really, really, really stepped up for this group of kids. And this almost didn't happen. So we did, like I said, we did all the fundraising, but we still were short, I want to say close to $20,000.
Jeez, that's a big.
So that's that's $20,000 in 1987 money.
That's holy cow.
So it was a huge deal. So Johnson Wax and a few other Converse and some other entities really, really stepped up for us to make this happen. Mm-hmm. And to this day, I'm still grateful for that opportunity. So, yeah. So, obviously, we raised the money. We started to receive sponsorships. So, we were sponsored by Converse. So
that was a big basketball shoe back then, right?
I know the young generation looking at me like, what?
Converse, yeah.
That's almost equivalent to Skechers. But to be honest, Converse was one of the only show in town as far as big branding.
Yeah, that was like the Nike.
Yeah, that was the Nike of today. Mm-hmm. So we were sponsored by Converse. They presented us with the USA bags. They presented us with the USA uniforms. We had warm-ups. We had the shoes, obviously. So we were geared from here head to toe. McDonald's also sponsors, but McDonald's have been a sponsor for our youth group for quite some time. So it was clear that they would be sponsoring us during this trial. So we raised the money. We got the sponsorships. Now it's time to fly out. And like I said in the last interview, I don't think it really resonated with many of my teammates, parents, and coaches until we got a little older. Mm-hmm. So when I was younger, this was just another tournament.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just another tournament.
No.
All right. As I'm sitting here at 47 years old, I'm telling you about the greatest feat that probably has happened in amateur sports. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know what else you want me to go into. I feel like I'm just kind of freelancing.
Elaborate. What are the differences between like over there in Russia with basketball and over here? Like, is there any differences between those two?
So the differences that we saw then is what you're seeing right now in the NBA. You're seeing taller players that's able to stretch the floor, that's able to handle the rock and do things like that. So you have to remember in 87, I believe we were like 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that little age group.
Yeah.
And we were only 5'1", if that. I was 5'1". I was probably the third tallest person on our team.
Dang.
Kevin Griffin, I would say, was the tallest, and he may have been maybe 5'5". Right?
Jeez.
So that don't seem like much today.
Yeah.
But
back then it was different.
But back then, I mean, it was some decent height.
Yeah.
Well, we were playing against cats that was 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah. You're centers.
Right. So
yeah.
These are bigger players. Definitely bigger than we were.
Yeah. So
the difference is that for us then, it wasn't the skill as you're seeing evident today. It was the height.
Mm-hmm. That was your hard breaking point. So what did you guys do to get around that?
To get around the height event?
Yeah.
So if you're a basketball guru, you kill height with speed.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure y'all were fast.
And we definitely were fast. We made shots. Mm-hmm. We were fundamentally sound. We didn't make many mistakes. We defended, but we had heart.
Yeah.
And that's something that you really can't teach. So, I mean, when you add up all of those intangibles, that's what you have. You have 1987, Racine Small Fry world champions.
How did it feel winning that?
Wow. That's a great question.
As a person and winning it with your team.
That was a big deal, winning a tournament of that magnitude. But you have to remember, we were still riding high off of winning the national tournament in Newark.
Yeah.
So we were still riding high off of that. And then going over Russia, still dealing with that victory lag, I like to call it. And then ending up winning it in Russia. I think it was surreal. I don't think it really, really registered or hit until we touched down here in the United States. So that was, I think what did it, I can only speak for myself.
Yeah.
So I think what really hit home for me is, as, we flew into Chicago O'Hare Airport, and we had this big, huge, fancy Lamers bus. We took the Lamers bus there too. But when we got to the border of Wisconsin and Illinois, there were police on bikes and cars on the side of the road. So, I had a window seat, so I'm looking like, man, that's weird. And the bus pulls over. I'm like, oh, man, here we go. Like, what? The bus driver must have been speaking. To make a long story short, they were there to greet us, and they were there to take us in.
Oh, so you got a police escort.
So we had a police escort, lights going all the way down the highway. You would have thought it was a president coming in, like with the motorcade. These are things that I remember.
Yeah.
All right, so we exit off at 333. We get off on Highway 20. We headed into town, and right outside of this building is when it started to really, really register. And the reason why it started to register is because there were people on both sides of this road with signs saying congratulations and chanting USA and
wow.
We miss you, Racine Small Fry. And that line of people went from there all the way down as far as I can remember. All right, so we ended up finishing up at the festival hall.
Okay.
Yep. So we went to the festival hall, and that's where the big festivity happened, where just about every big dignitary in Wisconsin and in Racine were there. The community came out, and man, they gave us a greeting that we will remember for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, that's got to be so big, not just for you guys, but the community, Wisconsin itself.
It was a huge thing, and I think that's why I really enjoy speaking about this now, because I feel as if we were forgotten. Mm-hmm. Because if you ask people your generation about Racine Small Fry, you don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
So if you don't even know what Racine Small Fry is, I can't even ask you, what do you remember about or remember hearing about the 1987 Small Fry team, right? So these are things that I am going to be advocating for, to make sure our younger hoopers or younger generation know about this marvelous team that came from the same city as you.
Our team like that is going to be like almost like the Racine Small Fry. We got no big guards, no centers almost.
For who again? I'm sorry.
For Case next year.
Yeah.
Because we don't have any, we're losing Cam and Joe Mack because they're seniors. Mm-hmm. So we got tallest is 5'10" maybe.
5'10". That's not always a bad thing.
Yeah, because you guys, you dominated with speed and defense.
Speed and skill. So to make up for size, you have to be good and disciplined in other areas. Mm-hmm. So I think next year, just to get off subject, I think you'll really get a chance to see how good of a coach Bursey is, because he's going to have to change again. Mm-hmm. Change his approach, change his mentality, because he's going to have a new set of groups, group of kids rather.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then also for the Small Fry, that championship, you won MVP. So you want to go in a little about that? Do you think? How do you think you? Do you think you deserve the MVP? How do you think you played that game?
That's funny. Do you think you deserve the MVP? What kind of question is that? So, yeah, this I want to say we played 7 or so games. I felt like I played well throughout the tournament, but so did my teammates. I wasn't the only one that was performing. Every day, every game, someone else really, really stepped up. But in my opinion, I think the reason why I was awarded MVP is because of the nature in which we came back and how we finished. If I remember correctly, we were down maybe close to 10 points. Oh. We rallied, and I somehow, some way, I don't remember how it happened, but I ended up hitting the game-winning shot.
Oh, really?
To win the ball game.
Okay.
Like a walk-off.
That's awesome.
Right. So, if I could be completely honest, I believe that was the reason why I got MVP, and I was the leading scorer in that game too. So that also helped. But we didn't, to be honest, as a team. And traditionally, what happens is, after you win something, you get your medals and all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Stating that you're the champion, which we did. And then soon after, you're awarded the MVP, right? Mm-hmm. It didn't happen like that. I think they were so upset that we won that they kind of did away with the whole thing. But they had to make it right. So let me tell you how my team – well, actually, let me go in reverse. Let me tell you how I found out I've received the MVP and how my team learned that I've received the MVP. Okay. So we're flying home. After we done won this championship, none of us are thinking about MVP.
Any of that, like, man, you're just so happy you did it. Yep.
And we on our way back home, right?
Yeah.
We had been there for a good little while, so a lot of us were homesick. We were tired of the peanut butter and crackers. So we were flying or whatever, and I went to use the restroom, and as I came back, they had Russian people from the tournament that was on that flight as well. So we took a flight from Sochi in Russia to Moscow. So I believe the folks that were running the tournament had to be from Moscow because they were on that flight. So as I was returning to my seat, the typical Russian looking guy with the top hat and stuff on. He grabbed my arm, and I'm looking at him like, what? And he didn't speak no English. He shook my hand, and he handed me a square see-through case that had 3 medals in it. And the interpreter said, congratulations, you were awarded the MVP. So now I'm like, dang, this is
MVP too?
MVP. So all my teammates that was sitting there, they just like, dang, Wes got MVP. They started cheering, and it just, I mean, it was something.
Yeah.
It was something.
That's awesome.
So I can honestly say, like, in '87, that's when a star was born.
Great. Well, let's move on to your you got the high school state championship too.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that. How do you think you did it, and how do you think your team did in the high school? How'd you get to that point?
So this was another good segue when I said a star was born. So, after winning the national championship in Newark, going off to Russia, and winning the world championship, that kind of paved the way for me moving forward. Many people don't know, but I attended Prairie School from 5th to 8th grade.
Okay.
And I was supposed to stay at Prairie, but it didn't happen. It was a lot of my teammates who I've grown up with and was friends with my whole life decided that they were going to Racine St. Catherine's. So I made the decision to go to a school that was literally 5 blocks up the street from me. And this was a school that, my cousin that I had idolized too had went to, Scott Wilson. So it just made sense for me. And Corey Jackson, may he rest in peace. I had 2 cousins that played guard that went to St. Cat's. So, like I said, we all went to St. Cat's. When I say we all, I want to say probably four players from that Russia team end up attending Racine St. Catherine's. And that was one of the highest freshman class that ever attended Racine St. Catherine's. So it was really exciting times for Coach Ledge, Coach Lou Rideau, who was the JV coach at the time, Coach Marino, who was the freshman coach. So they knew about this incoming freshman group.
Yeah, you guys are going to be good.
Right. Yeah. So imagine that feeling. So get there. Things were good. I was already playing varsity soccer, so playing soccer in the fall, right before basketball season, kind of gave me that. It got rid of that high school gym. It works, and just so happened I ended up playing varsity, so that all just the nervousness and all that stuff went away. So I was already on that stage.
Yep.
So we get to basketball season, they already had a great team in place. They had the great Jim McIlvain, who was a 7-footer that went to St. Cat's.
Jeez.
That went to Marquette.
Oh.
That played for the Washington Bullets and the Seattle Supersonics.
Dang.
They had some other great role players as well. So they had a really good team already in place prior to us coming. But I don't think we really got caught up into the whole playing varsity thing with my group and my generation, although we wanted to. But I think at that time, the most important thing for me was playing with my boys, playing with the guys that I've been playing with my whole life. So fast forward, we end up, this sounds funny, but we end up making the JV team.
Yeah.
We ended up playing on the JV team, and I think that year, we were 16-6 or something. So the year went well. It could have been better, but you can kind of see what the future holds. You can see it.
Yeah.
You can see it, especially with the underclassmen, with my group, and so on and so forth. So fast forward to sophomore year, finally make varsity.
Mm-hmm.
The great Jim McIlvain is gone. Oh, my God, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do? Mac is gone. Well, we end up having a subpar season. We've never we had so many new players. We really didn't play together, so we were still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Trying to figure it out. But I want to go back a step because I forgot to mention this. So freshman year, I did make varsity.
Okay.
Made JV. Like I said, the varsity team was already
Really good.
really good. But I think what did it for me was towards the end of the year, they had it where, some of the underclassmen may have an opportunity to get on the varsity team.
Yeah.
So I was a freshman. Kevin Griffin, my running mate, was a freshman. So we were the only two players that had an opportunity to, quote unquote, to try out. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. We did that. We thought we did really well. Yeah. We really thought we were going to be on that team. Well, it didn't turn out that way.
No.
So I was devastated. I'm assuming Kevin was devastated because we cut from the same cloth. So with St. Cat's ended up going up to state. I believe they end up making it to the semifinals that year, and they end up losing to De Pere Pennings. De Pere Pennings had, I almost said matching. They had twins that were 7 foot. No. So I guess you can say matching. They had matching heights. They had 2 7-foot twins, the Rankin twins. One went to Notre Dame, and I can't remember where the other one went.
Did he go to play basketball?
They were what was
he went to go play basketball?
Yeah, both of them played basketball. Yeah. So Dwayne Gray, who was the 2 guard at the time, ended up fouling out in that game with probably 6 minutes left. And the game was close at that time. But when he fouled out and went out the game, De Pere really took advantage of that because defensively, Dwayne Gray was the catalyst of that team. He really got into you. He made things hard for other guards and hard to get into their sets and pass it to those 7-footers. So when he fouled out, tears just started flowing down my face.
Damn.
I was hurt. I was upset. Like, man, had he put me on that team, we wouldn't have been in that situation because I know for a fact that I could have filled that role. And I don't know if we would have won, but it wouldn't have. I don't believe it would have happened. Yeah, I don't believe it would have happened the way that it happened. Mm-hmm. So there was a fire in me that started at that point. I'm like, man, I don't like this feeling. I'm making varsity, and not only am I making varsity, I'm getting ready to take over Racine. I'm going to take over our league. I'm getting ready to do everything that I can do to make sure that I'm never in that position again. Mm-hmm. So to get back to the sophomore year, like we was talking about, we were just trying to figure it all out. We didn't do so good. But the moral of the story was we had a chance to really figure out each other, understand what our strengths were, understand what our weaknesses were. And that really helped us going into my 92-93 year.
And at this time, you're still with all your guys, right?
At that time, I'm still with all my guys.
So y'all are ready to fight.
And when I say all my guys, I won't say the full team from Russia, but the nucleus.
Yeah.
The ones that I was really close with, that I was playing with, like Kevin Griffin and Kevin Showers, and some of the other cats that we were with. To make a long story short, so 92-93 was an incredible year. Yeah. That was during the time where Michigan had that group called the Fab Five, right? And that's what we were called. we were called the Fab Five. It was it shouldn't make sense, but I have to say this.
Uh-huh.
So we were the first starting Black Five ever in Racine St. Cat's history.
Oh, really?
Ever.
So I'm sure that was a big deal back then.
Oh, it was a big deal in a positive way, and it was a big deal in a negative way.
Yeah.
You know, so that was the first. Well, it wasn't the first time, but that was a time that that race could have definitely came into play. It just so happened that this Fab Five could really play. It wasn't nothing they could do about it. So anyway, yeah, this Fab Five was comprised of myself at the 1, Dwayne Gray, who was a great football player at St. Cat's at the 2, Jermaine Showers, who was a great 2 guard that went off to play at South Dakota at the 3, who was a senior. Kevin Griffin, my road dog, who played at Northern Iowa, and I believe Nick Fleming, who he played at a couple different schools. This team, in my humble opinion, was one of the best high school teams that probably ever came out of the city. The difference is we didn't have the height. So, of course, some historian might say, well, this team here had Jim Jones that was 7 foot. I'm just saying, I would say we were the greatest team that played under the rim.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that year was a great year. We ended up having to, beat teams like Marquette, Pius, Martin Luther. That conference, the Metro Conference, was the #1 conference in the state. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of Division I basketball players being sought after out of that conference. So every single night that we played was a tough game.
Yeah.
No matter where or when. So we ended up beating our nemesis, who was Marquette. Marquette always had those dominant teams, no matter if it was football, soccer, basketball.
Anything, any sport.
Any
sport.
That's
like Franklin
Marquette,
for us.
Right.
Yeah,
Marquette was just tough. And, man, when we finally had a chance to beat them, to win it all.
That was so good, huh?
Man, yep. I cried.
Yeah. Oh.
As a matter of fact, it was a picture on Journal Times of Kevin Griffin crying. He was sobbing. I was crying. He was sobbing. So it was a big difference, right? And he was hugging me. It was, when you go to high school, that's everybody's dream is to win a championship. And to be able to do that with your brothers
you've been playing with
your whole life.
You're so close with, and then just getting that win.
Getting that win is extra special. So, I get a lot of questions about, because I did win 2 championships, which one did I enjoy the most? And I will say that the first one obviously is probably the most gratifying, but that second championship meant the most to me because we were not supposed to do it.
No.
We had 2 returning varsity starters, 2. And that was myself and Kevin Griffin.
And that was your senior year?
That was my senior year. So that was, of course, that would happen, right? That's just my luck. But yeah, in 1993, we had 2 returning seniors, myself and Kevin Griffin. And the rest were comprised of sophomores and juniors.
Okay.
And some of them I played with, and some of them not so much. But they had a good run their JV season, so that was a good thing. Well, anyway, they picked us next to last to finish in our conference. I don't believe we were ranked.
Dang.
I believe even my ranking slipped. Prior to my senior year, I was in the top 20 as far as top 20 players in Racine. If I want to be honest, I think I was 12.
Dang.
12 or 10. And then going into my senior year, I dropped all the way down to like 24.
Jeez.
And back then, those rankings were flawed because it really had nothing to do with basketball. It had a lot to do with who you were signing, where you were going. Commit. Because I was a dual athlete and I committed late. I fell victim to that rating. Well, we don't know what he's going to do. Well, that ain't got nothing to do with
your
my skill and what I'm doing on the court.
Your knowledge. No.
You know what I mean? So here's another situation where I use that to my advantage. So I'm going into my senior year with a lot going on. I hadn't passed the ACT yet. I didn't know what school I was going to. All my peers have already passed the test and identified where they was going. They already saying that we're going to be the worst team in the conference. My stock done, quote unquote, dropped. So imagine having all the pressure mounting on you your senior year. Your senior year is just supposed to be a year to, you've already made your decision. This is something that you just put a stamp on it and you ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
But not the kid, not me.
How do you think that affected your play style?
All that pressure.
Yeah.
As they say, pressure makes diamonds.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that has never ever bothered me at all, and that's pressure. I've always been able to withstand the time. I've always been able to fight through it, and I've always been able to figure out a way. So, man, like I had a lot going on, but through my faith, through my perseverance, through me having a support staff of my parents, my siblings, my teammates, it really was easy for me.
Yeah.
So soon as I finished with my soccer season, I was locked in. I was ready to rock and roll. It was really no different than any other year, but this year, it felt like I really had something to prove.
Yeah, and you were ready to prove it.
And I was ready to prove it. And boy, did we ever prove it. So we went off right away. We won like 4 straight games. We beat one of the top 10 teams that was ranked. I think it was I don't know if it was Madison Memorial or it was some Catholic school. I don't know who it was, but we ended up beating them, and we got off to a good start. So now we put everybody on notice.
Yeah. So that's when everybody started realizing, like, wait. Let's look at these guys again.
You mean 4-0? That St. Cat's team that we had at the bottom? And then, by the way, who is this guard that's just dominating? Like, they forgot about me. So, man, that consistency end up continuing on. We only lost a few games. We end up winning the championship. I end up running the table. When I say running the table, meaning I got the player of the year of the conference.
Yep.
I got the Racine Journal Times player of the year.
Jeez. I
got the championship. And not only did I move from being 24th, I was second in voting for Mr. Basketball. People don't know that. That's why that's why I stay off social media, because for a while there I was getting involved in all these conversations. People was having conversations about me as if I wouldn't find out about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and we'll get into that. But yeah, so Anthony Pieper, who was my teammate at Marquette, ended up getting Mr. Basketball. He had a lot of votes, but I was also in that talking too. So yep. I ended up getting first team All-State. Okay. So that means that I was in the top 5.
Yeah. Jeez.
From nothing to something, I guess you could call it.
Yeah. How'd that feel when you're like, when people realized that you were like, I'm up here. Like, I'm not, don't put me down there. I'm up here.
To be honest with you, Daniel, I've always felt like I was there.
Yeah.
And my game proved it. That all the time. It just so happened that, sometimes we don't understand the nuances and the politics of who's rating you. And at the end of the day, who cares? You know what I mean? Because I'll tell you this, some of our sports writers, they're just as guilty as that too, because, I remember them writing an article that said, oh, Marcus West will be a mid-major at best.
I bet that lit a fire.
At best.
That's crazy.
Mid-major at best. So guess what happened to them? They had to eat crow.
Yeah.
They had to eat crow.
Yeah, and then so you kind of already touched on that. You got Rookie of the Year and first team all tournament as a freshman.
I did at Northeastern Illinois. Yeah, so that was my savior school, and like I said, I hadn't passed the test. So by the time that I passed the test, majority of the big schools had already identified who they were going to have. They had already selected who they were going to select, right? So that was like really my last ditch option. It just happened to be Division I. And I have to thank Rudy Cullum for making that happen, who was my small fry coach. Okay. He really made that happen. But make no mistake about it, I was recruited by just about every school in the country.
Dang.
Just about every. I had 3 shoe boxes, 3 Nike shoe boxes or Converse, whatever they were, full of recruit letters. Like, I didn't get recruited by the Kentuckys and the Dukes and the North Carolina.
Yeah.
But everybody else outside of that,
they wanted you.
They sent me letters.
Yeah.
They sent me letters. So, went to Northeastern Illinois, was happy. I was just happy to be playing because I didn't want to deal with the embarrassment of not passing the test and have to be ineligible and all that good stuff, because at the end of the day, that's what a lot of people wanted to see happen, just so they can have something negative to say about me. Mm-hmm. So, I went into that situation. Again, they already had a nucleus. Mm-hmm. They had they had the number one. This is what I'm about to tell you is crazy.
All right, let me hear it.
This little team on the lake called Northeastern Illinois had 2 players that was number 1 at something in Division I. Reggie Smith was the number 1 scorer in Division I. I don't know. I think it was either 26 or 27 something points a game. Mm-hmm. And Shannon Green was the number 1 rebounder.
Wow.
In the country.
That is in the country.
In the country in Division I.
What?
In Division I.
That on one team.
On one team.
That's like what?
On one team. So again, I always say, how lucky am I? Yes, it was a small school, but I mean, who walks into a situation like that? I didn't know that.
No.
But that's what happened.
That's crazy. How did it feel to be on a team like that?
So, unbeknownst to me, I was a freshman, so I was still trying to fit in.
Yeah.
So you had Reggie, if he's playing at a 26, 27 clip, you can only assume that the offense is running through him. He had the green light, right? And Shannon was controlling the board. But they were missing a piece. And they really couldn't figure out what that piece was. So they had a point guard, I believe he was a junior, named Brian Bester, another Wisconsin native that was playing the point guard spot.
Like those Wisconsin people.
Right. So Brian was one of those, he was a heady guard. He could knock down that shot, but he was robotic. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. He was just easy to guard. I'll put it like that.
I got you. Yeah.
He was easy to guard, and he wasn't that difference.
Okay.
So I end up somehow, some way, getting an opportunity to play. So I don't know. I want to say close to midway, I was probably only getting 8 to 10 minutes a game.
Dang.
8 to 10 minutes a game that I was getting. And we went on this long road trip. We ended up going to where did we go first? I know we went to Minnesota. We played the University of Minnesota. And I ended up getting a lot of run that game. And I played pretty good. I think I ended up with like 18 points. We lost. Okay. But I was a pretty good performance.
Yeah, 18 points is not bad.
In Minnesota against a pretty good Minnesota team who had Vashawn Leonard on that team, who was drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks. Mm-hmm. So I was the second or third leading scorer in that game as a freshman. Oh. So the momentum was starting to build. They made a mistake of allowing me the opportunity to to fill out this college game because it was much different than high school. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get my feet up under me. I had to figure it out. I had to get the time.
Yep.
I had to figure out where I fit in this offense. And if I can really do it, you don't really know. I mean, because in college, you comprised of a team that were all player of the years too. Mm-hmm. It's not just you. So, man, we went from Minnesota. We went to Montana. I ended up playing a lot of minutes that game. As a matter of fact, I was the leading scorer. I think I ended up with 26 or 27 points. Dang. I think I sent you the article.
Yeah.
That was a game that I ended up with an 8-point play. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
An 8-point play.
What's that?
So that's where I knocked down the 3-pointer, was fouled flagrantly.
Yeah.
Made the free throw, shot the 2. We got the ball out of bounds, received the ball out of inbounds, hit another 3. 8-point play. That's my claim to fame that I don't think too many people can talk about.
No, okay, that's hard to do.
Hard to do. I mean, like,
it's impossible.
It's always the first, right?
Yeah.
First time. So yeah. So Minnesota, Montana, a couple other games. I want to say we played a team out of St. Louis, and I kept elevating my game, and then the biggest game of the year that nobody in America expected us to win, and that was the matchup against a top 25 team in Arizona State, who was spearheaded by almost the National Player of the Year in Stephen Smith.
Dang.
Arizona State was favored by almost 30 points.
Wow.
Against small school like Northeastern Illinois. I go into that game like a normal game. The bigger the lights, the better I play. So I don't care. It could have been due. I was getting ready to show out because that's just
you came to play.
I came to play. I always come to play. Always. So make a long story short, I end up with another 26, 24 points. We end up beating them in Arizona. We beat them by, I don't know, less than 6 points. But you know what kind of problems that caused, right? So automatically, NCAA is looking into this victory. So after that game, I received a phone call from the NCAA stressing the importance of sports betting, not throwing games, and things like that, and asking me if anybody approached me about that. I said no. Okay. Never heard from him again. So I'm assuming that same call took place, not that game, but later on that season, and it's all gonna make sense. So I will say this: Stephen Smith ended up catching a felony for throwing games that year.
Wow.
And he lost his scholarship, and I think he might have done jail time for throwing games. So somehow, some way, some criminal organization got a hold to him, and they were betting, they were playing the odds. But I can say that the criminal entity didn't have nothing to do with that game. We beat them.
Like hard?
We beat them. You can tell when somebody is not playing and who is. So, obviously we watched video on this Stephen cat because he was the best player. He was playing. You could tell when somebody's sloughing off or whatever. No, he was playing.
Yeah.
So, so that really put me on cloud 9. I'm like, man, I'm here to stay. I'm performing against the best players in the country. I'm doing my thing. Sometimes it's equating into a win, but sometimes it's not. Okay, cool. So we go into the tournament. I think we were probably one of the lowest seeds in our tournament bracket because, like I said, we had a subpar season. Well, we almost ran the table. We end up losing to not Buffalo, but we beat Buffalo to go to the finals. But I cannot remember the team right now for whatever reason that we lost to by 3 points. I had a heck of a tournament, end up first team, all tournament team, and would have got MVP of that tournament had we won. So that was, man, that was that was a huge deal, getting freshman of the year, because that was something that I wasn't expecting, especially starting off the way that I did.
Yep. So
I started off slow, but I finished strong.
Yeah, that's what matters, right?
That's what matters. That's what matters. Yep. That's the moral of that story.
And then 1998 Conference U.S. champion. Oh, wait, before we get into that, have you been so you went to high school in Prairie as well as St. Cat's.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been paying attention to St. Cat's players this year?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, and yes.
Yeah.
I tune in traditionally from time to time, and I really tuned in probably within the last 4 years when they had that great. Well, actually, before that, because my cousin Elijah Lambert played there, so I followed him. He plays at Whitewater, and then when Tyrese Hunter came along, and they almost went undefeated. I followed them. That was a great team, great players, obviously. And then now you have another fresh group of
really good
of really good kids that are there now. So the future is really bright again for Racine St. Catherine's. And I'll say this, and I've been speaking this for about a year now. I've been around the game in Racine for a long time, and I watch players come out of here. And this is not being cocky at all. This is being honest. I have never seen a guard that made me say, man, this cat going to be better than I ever was. Not one guard that I ever felt that way about.
Yeah.
But this Duty Hamilton that's over at St. Cat's.
The freshman?
The freshman?
Dude.
Let me tell you something. Barring injury, if he keep his head on straight, he keep his nose clean, and his entourage stay out of the way.
Mm-hmm. Stay strong to the game.
That boy gonna be. I don't want to call him boy, but that young man, and in my opinion, is going to be, by the time he get a senior, he's going to be the Wisconsin Mr. Basketball, and he's gonna have multiple championships, and he's gonna be better than I ever was.
Yeah, he's got so much potential, man. So much. Yeah, they just was it last week? I think there was second round in the playoffs, and they beat the team by like 40, 73-37.
That's not surprising to me. Yeah. And obviously, I'm a St. Cat's guy, and it's hard being, in the public sector. Not sector, but being in the public school and seeing things a little different. Mm-hmm. And I'll keep this short, but we had an expectation when we were at St. Cat's, and that expectation was to give 110% and to do everything you can to win, and obviously do well in the classroom. That mentality is not the same in a public school.
No,
it's not the same at all. And so when you see me upset or you see me questioning things, that's because I don't understand that mentality. It bothers me. I'm like, in the real world, who does that? And I'm not speaking in case terms. I'm just saying just public school in general. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm glad and blessed that I'm here at Case. So I can give these kids like what they need to get to that next level at some point. And I really hope that that they listen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. And then we'll go to the 1998 Conference USA champions, Marquette basketball.
Yeah. So, as we talked about, so I went to Northeastern Illinois.
And you were there first before you went to Marquette, correct?
Yep, I was there first. So a lot of people that don't know my story probably like, well, wait a minute. How did you play at two different schools? Because I did. So, but let me make it make sense to you.
Okay.
So after that great year, man, that summer was phenomenal. That summer in Chicago, you know how basketball is in Chicago, and you know the talent that they have in in Chicago. And I would go to these summer runs, and Mr. Parker would call, and he said, "Hey, Marcus, you going to come to?" No, he said, "Mark." He said, "You going to come to the runs today?" I said, "Yeah, man, I think I'm gonna come through." He said, "Yeah, I want you to show them guards what's really going on." So Parker is Jabari. Mr. Sonny Parker is Jabari Parker, who played with the Milwaukee Bucks' dad. And he's a big-time name in the Chi, and he knows talent. And that cat used to call me. It was like he was sick of me on these guys, So, and I'm being totally honest. So, man, I had a phenomenal summer. By far, Sonny's called me Mark West from Milwaukee. That's what everybody called me here. Come Mark West from Milwaukee. So that summer, going into my sophomore year, the expectations was high for me. We had just moved to a different conference. I was preseason player of the year predicted during my sophomore year. Mm-hmm. I was preseason third team All-American during my sophomore year. So, needless to say, I'm really flying high.
Yeah.
So
say that.
Literally flying high. We're the Golden Eagles.
Yeah.
So we go into the season. First game out of the gates, 30-plus points. Second game out of the gates, high 20s.
Jeez.
Third game, high 30s. Fourth game, somewhere in there. And by this point, I was the second leading scorer in NCAA.
Jeez, in the whole NCAA.
In the whole NCAA at 26-4.
Dang. That's, wow.
So this is like 6 games in. So you can already imagine what the upside is, right? We talking NBA now, right? Practice comes along, and everything good. Yep, practice comes along, and I end up injuring my foot in a walkthrough. I'm like, oh, I can't walk. That's weird.
Yeah.
So I end up getting injured. I end up fracturing my foot.
Ooh.
All that hard work, everything down the drain.
Yeah.
Sitting at home in a doggone cast, trying to figure out if I'm going to have surgery or have a screw put in, or am I going to just put a cast on and let it heal?
Yeah. And then is this going to hurt my game after?
And if this is going to hurt my game. So you can understand the range of emotions that's going through me. I'm like, Lord, why? Like, man,
I'm riding high right now. I'm ready to go.
Like, this was my opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So to add insult to the injury, I want to say maybe a couple weeks later, I get a knock on the door, like 8:00
in the morning.
No, at night.
At night.
I'm like, this is weird. So I'm like, well, it's got to be my family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at that time I was dating my daughter's mom, and they was big on me staying focused and really not into the dating thing. So I honestly thought they were coming up to tell me, you know what, I don't agree with X, Y, and Z. You need to just focus on school and basketball. That's the kind of conversation that I was expecting to have.
Yeah.
Well, when I saw my mom, my sister, my dad, my then girlfriend, who's my daughter's mom, at the door, I'm like, see, here we go.
Here comes the talk.
They all come down the room, come into the bedroom. By that time, I'm one crutching it.
He's hopping over.
They said, something bad happened. I'm looking. I'm like, what do you mean, something bad? What? So I started naming off people like my brother, Tracy, this person, that person. They said, no. I'm like, what? They said, Dana. I said, what? They said, your nephew was killed today. I said, what? They said, Dana is no longer with us, and he was shot and killed today. I was standing up at the time. I just fell to the bed, held my head down. They started hugging me, and at the time, I couldn't even really cry because I was still trying to process that.
Mm-hmm.
And all my family, see, people don't understand how important family is, right? Family, they look out for your well-being. So they knew that they couldn't deliver that type of information on the phone because they knew that I was coming home, and they knew that I would be distraught. So they didn't want to put me in a position like that to have to do that. So that's why they came so deep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Man, so they broke me the news. Obviously, got in the car. We had like a group of 4 cars. Go home. And I'm sitting there. I'm not even driving. Tears just flying down my face. Thinking about Dana. I'm thinking about who did it.
Just mad, upset.
I'm thinking about how you gonna get this dude back. I'm thinking all this. I'm having a whole range of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like the longest 45-minute drive ever. Get to the house, people obviously there. My sister stayed with my mom at the time because she just moved back from, I don't know if it was Florida or Indianapolis. But they made sure that I got in the house. They made sure that I was good. And they made sure that they watched my every move because they didn't want me to mess up my career behind this garbage.
Yep.
My dad gave specific instructions. You keep an eye on my boy. You know, because, see, you know, our family is really, 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 really tight. And with them staying with me, or not with me, but with my mom, and them being there all the time, and all of my nieces and nephews and my sisters, we were all close. You know, so that could have happened to any one of them, and the feeling still would have been the same. But that was one of the most traumatic things that at that time that I had went through. So this is all gonna make sense. So as I'm at home in a boot, I'm grieving.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm done with school.
You don't even have basketball, school, or anything to distract you from that.
And that was the least thing that was on my mind at that time. I wasn't going back to school. None of that. I wanted to be here with my family.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally, you know, the coach, Reese Johnson, who was a coach at the time, and Dick Canara, who was a couple of assistants, they would check in, and rightfully so. And finally, they said, I hate to ask, but, you know, when are you planning on coming back? And I just told them, I said, I'm not. I said, I'm done with school. I said, I'm not returning. So somehow, some way, the word got out in the Chi that I wasn't returning. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
Because I was a big name in the city.
Yeah, and you were still high on your horse.
And I still was high on my horse. And people was talking like, dang, that's sad that happened. And he's not going, and he broke his foot. What's next? So from what I understand is Bo Ellis, who was, who's an all-time great at Marquette.
Mm-hmm.
And he was an assistant coach, and he just happened to be in the city and heard that rumor. So while I was at home, I received a phone call from Marquette. Now, I'm under contractual obligations still to Northeastern Illinois, but they checked in. They were like, so we're hearing that you're not planning on going to school, but first we want to apologize and send our condolences to you and your family about your loss.
Yeah.
But if you want to come here, that's closer to home, we have something for you.
For Marquette?
Yeah. And so I told them, I'll get back to you. This is what I told Marquette. I'll get back to you. And that was real.
Yeah.
I told him I'd get back to him because, like I said, I hadn't really, really thought about basketball, soccer, none of that.
No.
So, obviously, I made the decision to attend Marquette. The only way that could work is because I had to transfer anyway, and I had to sit out a year, and the basketball team didn't have a scholarship at the time, so I had to go on a soccer scholarship, right? And so after playing that year and becoming eligible, they still didn't really have a scholarship, so they quote unquote called me a walk-on. Okay. But anybody with a brain
would not have you
know that I was not a walk-on. No. You know, people want to say that, oh, he walked on at Marquette. Okay, yeah. I mean, you can call it what you want to. That's the term that was used, but that ain't really what happened.
Yeah.
So I ended up at Marquette, and it was one of the greatest times in my life because I got a chance to play at home. I got a chance to play in the Bradley Center, which was new at the time, and Marquette, in theory, was a bigger version of St. Cat. There was so many St. Cat alumni that attended Marquette. So, you know, those home games were lit. You know, we talking 19,000 or whatever, and you know, you had a lot of St. Cat's alumni there that was cheering. So to get to your original question, I just had to give you the backstory to that.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So, you know, that year, again, I didn't get much playing time in the beginning.
No. And you were coming off so much stuff.
And I was coming off so much stuff, but I was just happy. Once I finally got my mind together, I was just happy to be back part of something. So my mind had already shifted. I was committed.
And do you think that made you stronger?
What made me stronger?
Having to go through your nephew and then your foot.
Let me tell you something, man. In theory, yes, it did make me stronger. But I don't think that's something that anyone should have to go through
to make them
at that age.
Yeah,
you know, and I still often wonder why was that allowed to happen to my family, because we were a praying family, we were a God-fearing family, and you know, just to have something like that happen, it kind of make you question things. You know what I mean? But they say, you know, bad things happen to good people.
Yeah.
And I just think that's just backers. But anyway, I'm not gonna get off task here. But yeah, so started off slow, wasn't getting a whole lot of playing time. But I was always the crowd favorite. When I would come off the bench, the crowd would just erupt because they knew what I was bringing to the game. I was bringing that tenacity. I was bringing that up-tempo pace. I was bringing that no-look pass. I was bringing a whole addition of things that they were not receiving. So as time went on, my time increased. Then the injury happened to Anthony Pieper, the one that ended up winning Mr. Basketball. So I ended up getting implemented in the starting role. We won 4 straight games during the Conference USA tournament. We ended up beating UNC Charlotte in the championship, and we gained an invite to the NCAA. And that was a grueling experience because we had to, not only did we have to win, but we had to win against the best in the Conference USA.
Yeah.
And we did that. In that article that you see right in front of you, that was a picture.
We'll pull a picture up on that.
You know, so that picture there was the picture that was taken during that time. And the reason why that was in the paper today is because we have a great team up in Milwaukee, Marquette, who is 6th in the country, that's trying to, they won the conference, but they're trying to win the Big East tournament.
Yeah.
And to date, that 1998 team was the only team in Marquette history that has ever won a conference tournament.
Dang.
That's why that was such a big deal.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll shift a little bit here to City of Racine men's basketball championship, and you almost getting banned from the league.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure you're waiting to hear this story.
Oh, yeah.
So I see Mr. Love over there. He's smiling from ear to ear. He waiting to hear this part of the story, too. But, yeah, you know, when I returned from school, that was the lowest point in my life.
Mm-hmm. After
after my senior year.
Okay.
You know, because everybody aspirations is to make it, you know, to the NBA. But unfortunately for me, I came during the time that had the NBA lockout.
Oh.
So you talk about timing. So now I'm really like, dang, Lord, I'm
Man.
broke foot, lost my nephew, NBA lockout. Like, really, what are you doing to me? So, you know, a lot of the NBA players that were, you know, second tier were flooding the overseas market, right? So to make a long story short, I had an opportunity to go overseas, but I chose not to because the amount of money that they wanted to pay me, I felt like it wasn't worth it to me because I had just had my daughter, and I'm like, I'm not getting ready to go overseas for 30, 40, 50 grand and miss my daughter walking and all that good stuff when I can make that money here working. That was just my mentality.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing just that, and that's why it was the lowest point, because all those folks that was in the bushes that I say that was waiting on me to fail.
Yep.
Oh my God. They all came out when I came home.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like I told you so moment. Yeah, you did all this and did all that, but guess what?
Okay.
Now you at home with us. Now you gonna have to work type of deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whew, that was a rough time.
Yeah.
That was a test.
Probably the biggest. You think that was the biggest one in your life?
I think that was the biggest test of my life because I had to face it.
Yeah.
I couldn't hide. So you either face it head on and deal with it, or you leave.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning you switch, you go to another state, you run, or you
run from
or you just hide. I never ran. I ran on the court. I ran on the soccer field, but I never ran from no smoke ever.
Nope.
So I faced it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, everything that I've done, my basketball and soccer resume is cemented. It's second to none. So I just came home, put my head down, still obviously continue to play basketball because I was young and that's all I knew to do. So they talked me into playing the City League basketball. I knew nothing about it. I just knew my dad used to play it back in the day, and I knew it was a huge deal. But I'm like, well, since I'm home, I'll get into it.
Wait, so this was after high school?
No, this was after college.
Okay, so this was after Marquette too?
This was after Marquette. This is once I graduated.
After everything.
This is after the sun has set on Mr. West. After the sun has set.
Oh, you're this big shot.
You know what I mean? So I come home.
Okay.
And that's what I had left to do for competition is either play City League or travel, playing in adult tournaments like I did. So, I came home, played with my old St. Cat's team, right?
Yeah. So you were on a men's league with them too?
So I was on the men's league with them too. That's one thing about me. Loyalty means everything to me. And if you're a true friend of mine, you have a friend to the end. You don't ever have to worry about loyalty because I like I said, I wear my heart on my sleeve. And once you cut me or you do something that goes against the grain, man, I take it personal and I'm really through with you. You know what I mean? So when it comes to competing, I like to compete with those that I've been in war with, that I know what they can do, what they can't do, and things like that. I'll splurge off, I'll go play here and there, but if I have the opportunity to play with somebody I know that's a proven winner, see, that's the difference. You can play with your buddies and you can play with X, Y, and Z, but I was playing with proven winners. Yep. That's the route that I went. And man, my first run, I won 3 championships with Rudy's. And then I think I lost, and then I ran off another 3 or 4 with Southern Lakes. So during that time, during the last run, I want to say, man, this was my last title. This was my last hurrah.
Wow.
Last hurrah. So going into that year, the year that I won my 7th championship, I won't go into who was officiating. But we was at the Chavez Center, which was Douglas at the time.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so the referee had a horrible referee day.
Okay.
And I was in a bad mood that day, so I had a horrible day too.
So it didn't help at all.
Right, so it didn't help at all.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. So, okay, he had a bad day. I was having a bad day, but he ended up saying something to me that I deemed to be disrespectful. Mm-hmm. And I tolerate zero disrespect. So what I decided to do is the ball was rolling towards me.
Yeah.
I did an old little soccer trick. I kicked the ball up with my foot.
Yeah.
Volleyed it over his head. I kicked the ball over his head. Mm-hmm. Hit the wall, bounced back over his head. He threw me out, right? Oh. Which rightfully so.
Yeah, fair.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
But somehow, some way, he had to write a report, right? And so somebody that really wanted me gone because I had such a chokehold on city basketball, they talked this man into writing a report saying that I intentionally tried to hit him with the ball. I can't make this up.
Okay.
I cannot make this up. Never, ever in the history of basketball has any player have to go to court. I had to go to City League basketball court over this infraction. You laughing, but
that's ridiculous.
I want you to, it's all gonna make sense.
Okay.
It's all gonna make sense. So I had to miss several games until they figure out what they gonna do. I'm pissed off. They trying to kick me out of basketball league. I'm trying to explain to them that, dude, I could have went pro for soccer. So if I wanted to kick the ball at him,
I would have kicked you.
He would have been hit,
Yeah.
and his report would have been accurate. I was sending a message. I clearly kicked the ball over his head on purpose. So I had to go to this meeting at City Annex, a basketball court, I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that was a thing.
It's not a thing, but it was a thing for Marcus West. It was a thing. It was a thing because people made it a thing. They wanted me gone.
Yeah.
When I say they, I'm talking players, basically players. Everybody wanted me gone.
Uh-huh. You were that big of a competition?
I was that big of a factor. I was winning.
Yeah.
You couldn't win as long as I was playing. You were playing for second. You were playing for second. So I go to this court hearing. They state their case. They say, "Yep, you're facing a lifetime ban."
Wow.
From City Athletics.
So all athletics, not just basketball?
Basketball.
Okay.
Which was, I'm not trying to poke fun at that situation because that was a big deal. I'm just laughing like, City, like for real, like who do you think you are?
Yeah.
Right? So
City League.
Right. So you had to explain all that in the beginning. So
it's like a church league.
It's not a church league, but it's a league.
Yeah.
It's an adult league that's supposed to be for fun.
I got you.
So I got all these character witnesses and stuff like that. Officer Terry Jones, who was my teammate, he was the last to speak, and he said it best.
Okay.
He said, "I've been playing with Marcus a long time, and he has never, ever, ever tried to harm an official." He said, "In fact, in case y'all don't know, I've seen him do tricks with a basketball before. And I can honestly tell you that if he really wanted to hit this official with that ball, he would have." He said he didn't do nothing different than what he would do after a win, just showing off. He volleyed the ball, he kicked the ball at the wall, and the ball bounced. So I'm asking this committee to allow him to play. Right? So when it was my chance to speak on the matter, during this whole time, me and Mark Duckworth, who was a teammate of mine, I used to go over there and kick it with him often. And man, we was some funny cats, right? We were jokesters.
Yeah.
So don't take this fun the wrong way, because
Okay.
this was right after the OJ stuff.
Oh, okay.
Right. So we came up with this thing that if the ball don't hit, you must quit. Right. So that was my last line that I told them after I said, I'm disappointed that I'm even in this situation. If I really wanted to hit him with the ball, I would have. I said, now, I should have been suspended, yes. But you talking about ban? I said, that's a little excessive. I said, if we looking at the facts, I said, if the ball don't hit, you must have quit. And I closed my argument. So they had to think about it, right? As I'm leaving the city annex, there had to be about 40 people outside with chanting with signs saying that I should be banned.
Oh my gosh.
And some of those people are in RUSD right now. That used to compete against me.
Oh gosh.
Right? So that's how nuts this got.
That's crazy. Off of one little incident.
Off of one little incident. So here we go. Now I'm getting into the good part.
All right.
Listen.
So yeah,
So let me get into the good part about all of what happened. So they made the decision. They said that I can play.
Okay.
Pissed off all-Racine. They said, man. First week of the tournament, not a peep. We win. That started on Thursday or whatever. So Saturday and Sunday was a big one. So we make it to the Sunday game, which was a championship. So happened, I was playing against one of my Russian buddies. That was my teammate, right?
You're playing against or with?
So I'm playing against him.
Ooh.
His name is Deontay Malone, who was Coach Booker's nephew.
Mm-hmm.
So the team that he was playing with in my absence was having a phenomenal run.
Yep.
He had some D1 players over on his side. And really, Deontay was having a marvelous year up until that point. So back then, it was a big deal like, man, who the best guard in the city? Right? So oftentimes it was me. But in this particular situation, they were saying it was Deontay, which is fine. This is my brother. Right? He comes from good lineage. So the build-up was already crazy in itself, not knowing if I was going to play. But once I did eventually be deemed eligible to play, and they won and we won, so now you got that build-up. So those same individuals that was there that was rocking with Deontay was in the stands with signs calling me the poster boy. Now, we're talking about City League basketball.
Yeah.
If this don't give you a headache, I don't know what would. In terms of basketball, I was probably one of the most hated cats around. Not because I was cocky, not because I've done anything to them. It's because they never, ever, ever could beat me. Ever. No matter what, they couldn't beat me. So the easiest thing to do is to hate them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to complete this, so we ended up battling against each other. I didn't feel right about it because I knew how important this moment was for Deontay.
Yeah.
It wasn't so important for me, although I do want to win.
Mm-hmm.
And the night before the championship, we were all supposed to get together at Mark Duckworth's house and do like we normally do, chop it up, have some tacos, some adult beverages, and just kick it,
Yeah. Have a good time.
Well, he stood us up. It didn't happen.
Wow.
So I said, oh, this guy real. This guy real. So I'm like, oh, boy.
Here we go.
Here we go again. So I'm like, man, I'm second guessing this. I'm like, man, what I'm gonna do? I know how important this is for Deontay, and what am I going to do? Well, I wasn't raised where I'm just gonna fold or I'm just gonna let things happen. But I will say this, and I'm just gonna close this out. So going into that game, I was a little bit nervous because I was playing against my brother.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't shoot the ball as much. Matter of fact, the first half, I only had 3 points. And we were down by 30 points.
Oh, my gosh.
At the half. The crowd going nuts. calling me poster boy. Yeah, we don't need the poster boy talking all this negative stuff, right?
Yeah.
Somebody in that crowd said the wrong thing.
Oh.
Somebody in that crowd said the wrong thing.
Never said the wrong thing to Mr. West. No.
And it tripped a wire in my head. The third quarter alone, I had 26 points in the third.
Wow.
26 points in the third. We end up winning that game by 6 after being 30 down.
That's crazy.
My 7th title. Dealing with facing exilement, having to play against your brother, right? And dealing with all these rowdy fans that came there to support him, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
So that whole gym that was against me the first half,
Yeah.
by the end of the game, them same folks was cheering for me. Saying, oh, I heard Mr. Jamil Guari. If you know who I'm talking about, you know how he talk. He said, oh, man, he was out there teaching.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave it at that.
All right. Well, with that, thank you so much, Mr. West, for coming back on. We appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed being on.
I love coming to do these type of things, and I really enjoy doing it with you, Daniel. Man, you have been an inspiration to me. You have been a blessing to me, whether you know it or not. And I'm grateful that you want to hear these stories, and I'm grateful that you allowing me the space to let the world know what I've done and what some of my teams have done, because the older we get, we're being forgotten, and that's the last thing that I ever want to happen. And and I'm gonna say this in closing. One of my teammates had asked me before, like, man, Wes, what do you want your legacy to be? That was a deep question, and guess what rolled off my lips right away?
What?
I said, I don't want my legacy to be told. I want it to be written.
Wow.
And unbeknownst to me, I said it, but I didn't know what it meant, right? By that time, I wasn't nominated into the St. Cat's Hall of Fame. I wasn't nominated as a Hall of Famer yet. So that verbiage that I spewed out really meant something.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say speak it into existence, that's exactly what I did. So I never had to have that battle arguing with people about what I am in terms of basketball. After I got into the Hall of Fame,
Yeah.
I said to myself, there's no need to argue no more.
No.
Enough said. All you got to do is go downtown. That's where I ride.
Huh?
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on, West. I feel the same way about you, of course.
Thank
You've
you.
taught me so much.
Thank you.
But yeah. Well, thank you so much for watching. Tune in to the next episode. See ya. Peace.